I started work as a mailman a few months ago, and just last week, I had an extremely bad experience. There's this one house every time I deliver there. I see a person watch me through their front window. And I mean every time. I had always chalked this up to be an elderly person who had nothing better to do, and after a while of it happening, it didn't freak me out as much. One day though, I had to finish delivering mail on another carrier's route that had an emergency and had to stop early. When I was finished with theirs, I had to finish my own. As I made it to this one particular house, where the person watched me every day, I saw that they were not there at the window. This kind of made me happy, but also creeped me out, because it meant that the person always knew about what time I would normally be there and specifically looked out the window at that time. I dropped the mail into their slot and continued on. I had 3 more houses before I had to return to my truck to grab all the mail for the next street. When I got back to the truck, I saw a weird-looking lady standing under the streetlight. Behind it, she looked like she was on drugs. Her hair was a mess, and she was wearing gray sweat clothes. Stains all over them. She smiled at me and was missing teeth. She then said hello. I said it back and started gathering the mail for the next street. I couldn't see her as I did this, and I felt like she was walking up behind me. I turned around, and she was indeed closer than before, standing in the street. I asked her if she needed something, and she said no. I don't. I said back, okay. Well, I'm gonna continue on. Have a good day with all the mail ready to go. I closed the back door, made sure it was all locked up, and started walking. I felt relieved to be walking away from this crazy-looking woman. I delivered to about 6 houses when I noticed the woman standing next to a truck. In the shadows, she was following me. I'm sure she thought I couldn't see her there. I continued on, and after every other house, I saw that she was keeping up with me and trying to hide. This was so damn scary. There was nobody else around, and I felt like she would attack me at any moment. I delivered the mail to another house, and sure enough, when I walked back to the sidewalk, I could see her standing in a shadow by a big tree across the street. I decided I could not continue my night like this and walked over to her. She stiffened up when I approached her, and I said, "Why are you following me?" She didn't respond, and instead made my heart sink as she let out a noise. Only a crazy person would make a noise, like she was scared of me, but it sounded insane. She then ran away. She was definitely on something. And the next day, when I came to that house, where I would always see somebody there, watching me through the window, she was there. I know it was her. I am a United States Postal Service carrier. Something very weird and creepy happened to me a few weeks ago on my route. I've been carrying mail for 4 years now, and I've had this route for about 2 years. It's a decent area to deliver mail, and I've never really had a problem with it compared to other bad areas around my city that I unfortunately have had to deliver in. Some carriers have to deliver in shady neighborhoods every single day, so I do feel I got lucky with mine. I always go to this one specific park in the middle of my route to eat lunch every day. There's never really too many people there when I am, but this day, there were 2 little girls playing on the playground. This park was a pretty good size, and the playground was surrounded by pathways, beautiful flowers, and even a few fountains. The 2 girls showed up to the playground after I sat down at the picnic area about 20 minutes before they were doing their thing, and I was texting my girlfriend and watching videos on my phone when out of nowhere, this guy comes up behind me and says in a stern voice, "You better get out of here or I will call the police, you damn pervert." I was shocked and literally speechless. I spun around to look at him, and he was huge. Probably around 300 pounds, balding, and wearing old-looking glasses. I couldn't think of what to say before he spoke again. He said, "Get out of here, or I will beat the hell out of you." My face turning red with fear. I finally reply, "I'm just eating my lunch, man. I'm not sure what the problem is." The man huffed at me and turned around and started walking down the path. I sat there in awe for a few seconds and then looked at my phone to check the time. I had 5 minutes left of lunch. I texted my girlfriend about the huge guy, and then I looked over to the playground. I saw the two girls standing on the top of a big wooden slide, and I saw the man standing below them. He was talking to them. My first thought was that he was their parent or something, and got pissed and paranoid when he saw me eating lunch. But then I saw him reach up and try to grab one of the girl's ankles. The girl let out a brief scream, and I stood up. The man turned in all directions, looking for people who might have seen it. Well, he must have forgotten that I was there. Or maybe he assumed I was still facing the other way. I have no idea. I started walking over to them after seeing that. I got close, and I could see the girls look terrified. I shouted over to them, "Hey, do you guys know this man?" The man turned around and had a very scared but angry look on his face. The girls both said in unison, "No." The man started walking away immediately after that, and I just stood there and watched. After he walked out of the front gate of the park, I asked the girls if they had a phone and could call somebody to come get them. One of the girls did and called somebody. I'm not sure who. I waited there until I saw an older woman enter the park. She walked over to us and asked what was happening. I told her everything, and she didn't really react like I thought she would. She seemed annoyed or something, actually, like annoyed at the girls. She told them to get down and that they were leaving. After the three of them left the park, I checked my phone again, and I was 35 minutes behind schedule. So I quickly walked out of the park and turned to go down the sidewalk towards my truck. I got to my truck, unlocked it, and got inside. I started the engine and started driving. A few blocks down that same street, I saw the man sitting in a small red car. He was glaring at me as I drove by. I immediately got my phone out and called my boss. I told him everything I saw, and he said he would call the cops the rest of my shift. I thought about that guy, and I felt bad for leaving. When I got back to the office, my boss told me he did call the police, and that they went over to the park. I really hope he did, and that they caught that guy. I haven't seen him or the girls there since. I am in my 30s now, but when I was 11 years old, I had a frightening experience with a mailman. I was at the kitchen table with my mom, and we were making cookies and brownies. We were mixing things, and my mom said that she didn't have enough eggs for what we were making. She washed her hands and told me she was going to run to the store and she'd be right back. I stayed there at the table, sitting in the wooden chair, watching the TV that was on in the living room next to me. I'm not sure how long after my mom had left, the mailman appeared at the kitchen door and tried opening it without saying a word. Thankfully, it was locked, and he spoke to me, "Hey, can you unlock the door? I need to bring a package inside." I felt sick to my stomach. This mailman was a big guy, and he looked really creepy. I told him he could just leave it on the porch, and he said back to me, No, I can't leave this package. It has expensive things inside. Just open up, and I'll be on my way." I didn't know what to say, and right after that, my brother had walked into the living room after coming down the stairs and walked across the room and into the kitchen. With me, he stopped by the bowl of brownie mix and dipped his finger in and said, "Where's Mom?" I looked past him to the kitchen door, and the man was gone. I got up and looked out the door. He didn't leave the box he was carrying. My brother thought nothing at all of this, but my mom was a little weirded out when she got home. I saw our mailman a couple days later, and it wasn't the same guy. Something I never realized at the time, but did when I got older, is how would the mailman know that there was expensive things inside our package? What would have happened if I had opened the door? Okay, so a little background. This happened probably around 7 years ago when I was 13. My mom had just got married maybe 2 years before to my now stepdad Greg, who also had a daughter. We'll call her Lucy. She was 9. When my mom and Greg got married, we moved into a pretty big neighborhood. It had a pool with playgrounds and such, fairly close to my house. So one day, I believe it was Saturday to be exact, Lucy wanted to go to the playground to play, so I agreed to take her. I got my bike and Lucy rode on the handlebars, occasionally getting off and walking beside me. This took us about 10 to 15 minutes to get there, so we weren't far from my house. We get to the playground and I sit in the swings, while Lucy did whatever she was doing, playing in the sand, the jungle gym, etc. During this time, a mail truck pulls up right next to the playground and proceeds to just watch and stare at us. I thought it was pretty weird, but I didn't think much of it at first. I also didn't recognize the mailman. The usual mailman was an older guy, very friendly. The guy parked at the playground was a younger guy. After about 10 minutes of him just staring at us, Lucy comes over and goes, "Hey Emily, why is the mailman sitting over there?" I responded with, "I don't know. How about you ask him?" He was only about 50 feet from us. But Lucy yelled to him, "What are you doing?" And the man responded with, "Just watching you." We immediately just looked at each other and I whispered to her, "Well, that's weird." Thinking back on it, the way he said it makes me shiver. It was extremely creepy. I've always been street smart since I was very little, and I didn't like the vibe I was getting from this guy. So I decided it was time that we left. We walked over to my bike, not looking in this guy's direction at all, and started to leave. I was pedaling slowly on my bike, while Lucy was walking beside me. After about 30 seconds, I stopped and looked behind me. The mailman was following us, and he stopped when I turned to look back. This continued maybe about 6 times, and each time I looked back, I would always give him the rudest looks. I told Lucy to hop on my bike handles, and we noped the hell out of there. I pedaled fast enough to turn on this one corner and go up some random person's driveway and hide behind some bushes without him seeing. The supposed mailman drove past, and after a few minutes, we quickly went back to my house. I never told my mom, and I don't think Lucy was ever really frightened, to be honest, mostly because she didn't know what was going on. She was ditzy. Fast forward a couple months later, there was something on the news or in the newspaper. I don't remember exactly. My mom was telling me about it, about some guy in a white van who attempted to get some girls to get in my neighborhood. The girls ran home and naturally told their parents. I didn't really think anything of it until the guy was actually found and they showed his picture on the news. Guess who the mailman? I kind of just stared in disbelief. I didn't tell my mom or anyone actually until right now. I just kind of thought to myself, wow, that's scary. I was put myself in a lot of dangerous situations when I was younger, so I guess that's why it didn't faze me so much. I honestly forgot about it too, until a couple years ago when I found this subreddit, and I've been meaning to post it for a while now. I'm not sure what that guy was doing in a mail truck, or how he had one, but I'm glad I didn't end up in it that day. Let me start off by saying I am female, and I am not a typical mail carrier. I was hired to deliver mail in the rural areas of a town I live close to. I don't walk door to door like most mail carriers. You see, I usually just drive to each mailbox out here in the country, although every once in a while I do have to leave my truck and carry mail to someone's door, usually because their mailbox has overgrown weeds surrounding it. The mailbox is rusted shut, or in some cases, they simply don't have one. Something creepy happened on my 3rd day. I had parked my truck and started walking a long driveway to deliver the mail to a house. Their mailbox was completely surrounded by weeds and spider webs. It was raining, and I couldn't see very well because of my glasses. As I walked, I suddenly tripped on something and landed in a puddle. I couldn't believe I just did that, and I was soaked. I scrambled to my feet and looked around for what I tripped on. I didn't see anything. I was confused and pissed off. I bent down to pick up the mail I dropped, which was also now soaked. After gathering all of it, I started to jog over to the front door. I rang the doorbell and left the mail in front of the door. I turned around and started heading back down the long driveway. I was jogging, trying to get to my warm truck as fast as I could. As I got closer, I saw a man standing by the front of my truck. And when he saw that, I noticed him. He ducked behind it almost like a child would. That was trying to hide from an adult. Right after that, I heard a noise behind me. I turned to look, and there was now two men standing on the porch, watching me, the male still sitting at their feet the way they were just standing there. Watching me leave was so creepy. For some reason, I made it to my truck and walked around it. The man that was there was not there anymore. I didn't feel safe. I got inside my truck and locked the door. I drove away and was freezing cold for the rest of the day due to falling in that stupid puddle. The next day I pulled up to the same house. It wasn't raining this day and I could see clearly. As I began to walk the driveway, I stopped suddenly when I noticed a long, thin wire stretching across the driveway. Right before the large puddle I had fell in the day before. I could not believe my eyes. And then I noticed a person crouched down behind the bushes. Next to the puddle, I immediately turned and started walking back to my truck. When I got there, I got inside and locked the door again and started to drive away. As I did this, I looked up the driveway and saw the men standing up now next to the puddle and the same two men standing on the front porch. I had an argument with my boss later about switching routes permanently, as I didn't want to be close to that house ever again. He finally agreed, and I never did go there again. Nor did I hear about anyone else ever having trouble delivering mail to that house.